Let's hear it again for Minister of State Anderson. We've got a thank you for you, Minister of State, Brittany, and Sarah and Logan from C3 BCNRF would like to have a photo with you. Bringing the team of, I can't wait, I've been reading about this next panel, these rowdy mayors from all over BC. Thank goodness Brad West is here to bring some levity to our northern mayors. But it's going to be great because Kim Logan, who I'll introduce now with iTOTEM Analytics, another great partner of BC Natural Resources. Kim's going to be the moderator, and I'd love you to give Kim a warm welcome. She'll get the panel going here in a minute, and we'll just see what these local government folks have to say about lowering your resource taxes and building their communities at the same time. I don't know how they're going to do it, but well, hey, that's why we're here. Solutions. It's all about solutions, right, Your Worships? Okay, I'll get off the stage. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to find that these microphones are already on, so they should be working.
It's on.
Oh, yeah. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's panel it's actually the first ever dedicated mayor's panel at this event, which is kind of hard to believe. But we're very excited to bring this discussion to you. The panel will be focused on local leadership in the resource sector. And it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists today. We've got our host mayor, Mayor Simon Yu from Prince George. A special welcome to Mayor Brad West from Port Coquitlam, Mayor Herb Pond from Prince Rupert, and Mayor Lilia Hansen from Fort St. John. Keep those shout-outs going. It really makes for a lively discussion, and I promise this will be a lively discussion today. I know the mayors are all very passionate about natural resource development in the province and in their own hometowns. I also wanted to just highlight the fact that one of the focus of our panel discussion will be on what are those critical success factors to have the natural resource sector firing on all cylinders. And before this event started, iTOTEM Analytics, which focuses on simplifying complex data to unveil local insights to support advocacy and decision-making. We partnered with the organizers to launch the second annual Natural Resource Trust Index, and we'll be discussing some of the results of that survey in our discussion today. The overall score this year was 6.1 out of a scale of 1 to 10, and that reflects a moderate level of trust. So, you know, not bad, but I think there's room for improvement for sure, and that is one of the focuses of our discussion today. What are those critical success factors, and how can we accelerate them or improve them? So maybe first we'll just kick it off with a brief introductory remarks by each mayor to talk about, from their perspective, what do you consider to be those critical success factors for the natural resource sector to thrive in your community or in the province as a whole? So maybe we'll start with Mayor Hansen first to talk about her perspective.
Thank you. So I'm Mayor Lilia Hansen from the energetic city of Fort St. John. I think it's really important. We need to streamline the regulatory process. There also has to be certainty when it comes to how quickly can we get permits. How is it before, in past years, we were able to get permits in 60 days, 90 days, and now it's taking 2 to 3 years. What has changed? I think it's also important. We have to have reliable transportation, whether it's our roads, our bridges, and our rail.
Thank you so much. Maybe we'll move to Mayor Pond. What's your perspective?
Well, smart regulation would be one, so we clearly agree there. Meaningful partnerships, particularly with First Nations, thriving communities. The place To attract people away from larger urban centers and bringing them into rural British Columbia is becoming increasingly challenging. And I guarantee you in this room, there's all kinds of stories about difficulties around recruitment and retention. And one of the ways that we overcome that is making sure that our communities are strong, that they're vibrant places to live. And one of the challenges we have in today's world is funding those thriving communities. And things like healthcare. When your ER is closed, it's pretty hard to sell yourself as a thriving community. And then finally, I think both communities, First Nations, and industry need certainty. Certainty around regulation, certainty around funding, certainty around the rules moving forward.
Thank you so much. Mayor West?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me as your token mayor from the Lower Mainland. I appreciate that. I need a few more of my colleagues from the Lower Mainland to be here, though, because too often it's like a bubble. And there's a view that what happens in the rest of the province is completely disconnected to the reality of life in Metro Vancouver, and nothing could be further from the truth. I'm proud to say to you that I'm the mayor of Port Coquitlam, a resource community. And I say that because although there may not be a mine or a mill in Port Coquitlam, the health of my community is linked to what happens in the rest of the province. When I have to take my son to the emergency room, it's the resource industry and the activity that occurs throughout British Columbia that helps make that possible. And we have a big job to do educating people in every corner of the province that we're not a series of micro-states, okay? We're one province, and we need to act like it. We can't live in silos thinking that our destinies are not connected. They are. And I think government has to put its shoulder into that. Government has a responsibility to lead on that. It's not just industry's responsibility to educate people about what they do. Government has to believe in this work and has to lead the way. And it's the difference between coming up here and being able to tell you that what you do is important and actually demonstrating that every single day. And that's what I think government has to do, not only in its messaging to the rest of the province, but also internally in terms of their own regulatory approach, and maybe even more important than the regulations, the culture that they create amongst the bureaucracy and the people whose job it is to process the applications and the permits that you folks are looking for. We have to create a culture of people wanting to work with you to make things happen.
Thank you so much. And safe to say it's music to our ears, I think, in terms of your message coming from the Lower Mainland about the importance of the industry for the whole province. So thank you for that. Mayor Yu, what are your critical success factors?
Well, we as a region center around Prince George, north from Dawson Creek, Fort St. John, Chetwynd. West, we go to Rupert, the Two Prince, go east, Velmont, south, 100 Mile House. Every time when we get together annually at the NCLGA, I would say we have reached a critical success when the rest of the province, first of all, understand that we as a region, we represent about 60% of the export and all the natural resources that feeds into our economy. And yet, every time I see my mayor, Sarah Storrs, sitting there, when she's happy, I think we finally gonna reach success because we have an issue here. The issue is somehow over the years, when the resources was extracted here, the development of our cities, we didn't get the necessary funding, the fair share. Look, 1,400 of you showed up here. That's all we have. a small little civic plaza. This is not acceptable. So when I see, for me, the success happens, it is when we will have the convention center expanded, C3 will have their permanent office here. Oh, I can go on. You guys get what I'm trying to say here. And the key is, please, understand, we in the northern BC, all the little towns, whether it's Smithers, whether it's Houston, McBride, we have our ambitions. Together, we would like to grow. And so when we grow, this will be our success. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that. You're thinking big. You're thinking big, and certainly there is a waiting list for this event and the different components of the event. So I think the organizers would definitely welcome a larger convention center. But I love your message as well about collaboration and the need to think more as a region, a collective, as a province, and that will help us get things done. So I heard that message loud and clear from you. And speaking about the benefits of collaboration and how to get things done, in the survey results, we saw that there were 2 dimensions that had the highest dimension scores of 6.6 out of 10, and that was, along with leadership, was economic reconciliation. And I think the people in this room recognize the importance of that when it comes to the natural resource sector. But I wanted to ask Mayor Pond, how important is economic reconciliation to your community, and what do you see happening in your community of Prince Rupert?
It's everything in so many ways. Prince Rupert depends on the stats, but we're roughly 40% First Nations. We're surrounded. We're in the center of Tsimshian territory. Many of those communities have no road access to anywhere. They come in by boat into our community. And if you look at what's taken place in the last 5 to 10 years, almost every single major investment in Prince Rupert, not the industrial, terminals and those sorts of things, but housing and businesses, it's all First Nations. Every single housing project I can name right now is a First Nations housing project. The First Nations bought the Crest Hotel recently. There's another big purchase in the works. I don't know if I can talk about it. Local building supply stores. We can talk the talk about reconciliation. We can have nice words about it. But when people are actually participating in the economy, so that as these terminals are, and many of the terminals now are extending equity to First Nations partners. Trigon right now has that. There's throughput agreements with different terminals. And the result of that is the First Nations are turning back to the community and saying, how do we strengthen this community that's our hub? They're looking at literally millions of dollars in investment in healthcare in the community. Not for First Nations, but for the whole community. And so that's, when we hit a place where everybody is benefiting from the rise of the economy, then we have hit a place where, at least on an economic level, we've gotten to a reconciliation place.
Mary, what are you seeing in terms of an active focus or shared effort towards reconciliation?
Well, I have a little bit special history with the First Nation. I came to Prince George when I was 15. I grew up with First Nation. We lived together. I really started learning English from First Nations, really. So I have a very close personal bond with the First Nation community in and around Prince George. For me, the key is reconciliation is really action. Action requires files, money exchanged, project gets done. It is to truly understand the needs of the various small nations live around the Prince George, what they really need. You know, a lot of you probably never been to a small place like a Tekla Landing and you know, some very isolated communities. They have special needs. And now in Prince George, we have approximately 15 to 20% of population First Nations. And because they need capacity building in terms of education, training, and most importantly, is we need to find more places that we can exchange just in a safe place. We as a city, I meet with the Chief Logan once a month in a G2G. Basically, it's just no agenda, just talk, understand each other's program. And my city council meets every quarterly with the First Nation Council to understand, you know, what is the program they're doing in the city. So for me, the conversation have to lead to action. And this is, if the conversation just for the sake of conversation, no. Just like here in this room, we come here to understand each other under this safe house to try to see what can be done. And the First Nation is very much a part of all the conversation right now. So
I'm hearing that you put a big focus on understanding the shared goals, but not only that, but and you know, actually understanding all the different points of view and opportunities to collaborate, but then taking action.
Taking action, and we have to take some of their needs. They, you know, Clinic today have been asking about their simple little bridge over the years. And if that is the request from the Lower Mainland or Port Coquitlam, it will be done, right? Sorry to say that, but, and because here, I don't know how many times we advocate this file, you know, for emergency, for safety. I'm just glad that, you know, over the last 2 years, I think the Premier starting to listen to me a little bit, you know, kind of, and so he started appoint Brittany as the Secretary of State for Municipal Affairs, and I think she's from a small community. So I think we're going to moving forward a little bit better now.
Yeah, all very positive moves. Mayor Hansen, do you have anything to add from your perspective?
Thank you. You know, I truly do believe, and it's at my core, we will go farther working together. If you're working against each other, it's like you're in a boat with a hole in it and you're trying to paddle. You're not going to get very far, or you'll go down. In our area, in the Peace Region, I am really proud to see what our First Nation neighbors have done. They have led projects. They are making things happen. I can give you 2 examples, and there's many, many more. The first one has to do with Doig River First Nations. They have worked with the City of Fort St. John. They now have an urban reserve within municipal boundaries. They are building a project called Notche Commons. Another example I can give you is with First Nations BC. They are looking to how to progress and how to help their members. They have bought a passive house, which has their office. They have bought an apartment building to make sure that their members have affordable, safe housing. They're building a daycare. I believe they're breaking ground this spring. They've bought a lot. They are making steps forward for the progress and the certainty of their nations, their members, their family. And I think that's where it comes down to. It's what we're all working for, is for the betterment. We say it's for our community and our province, but it's for our family is what we do. The City of Fort St. John, our staff, I have to tell you, we definitely do have rock stars, and I'm sure many of you have been blessed with similar counterparts like that. We've been able to do memorandums of understanding and service level agreements, but you have to ask your partners what's important to you, because there's ideas that we might have, but is that their priority? I'm really pleased to see how well it's going. Our neighbors, we've got West Moberly and Soto. They've had some awesome announcements that have come out when it comes to wind energy. And then as we go farther north, it's wonderful to see the future of our children and all of our children, and the benefits of working together. It's not just for one group, it's to benefit the province.
It sounds like when we're able to collaborate and understand different points of view and how to work together, we can actually get things done. And you've given some great examples of that. Before I ask you, Brad West, to comment on that topic, I did want to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier and bring in some of the data that iTOTEM has been fortunate to be able to work with different industry associations to collect. And we've got data from the Council of Forest Industries, for example, which has looked at their supply chain expenditures of the members and produced a list of top 5 communities in terms of expenditures. And what they found was that Vancouver and Prince George, as a very close second, were the top 2 communities, followed by Surrey, Quesnel, and Williams Lake. And for the Association of Mineral Exploration in BC, the top 5 were Smithers, Vancouver, Prince George, Kamloops, and Stewart. For the Mining Association, just to round it out, we had Vancouver, Kamloops, North Vancouver, Prince George, and Burnaby. So I wanted to ask Mayor West, with the MABC study, it showed that more than 1,100 companies in Metro Vancouver were supplying the mining industry with $1.4 billion in expenditures in 2022, with $41 million spent with 31 companies based in Port Coquitlam. So I'm wondering, how do you think about the I know how you think about the importance of the natural resource industry to your community, but I'm wondering, do you think that the residents of Metro Vancouver share your view?
Well, I thank them very much for their $41 million in Port Coquitlam. That goes a long way in a city of 65,000 people. By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the lowest property taxes of the 21 municipalities that make up Metro Vancouver, Port Coquitlam. So when you're looking for expansion, that's a resident of Port Coquitlam clapping right there, by the way.
So that's why you're here.
That's it. That's right. As I said, not enough people in the Metro Vancouver region understand this, and I do think government has a responsibility to lead on that, as I said. But I also want to talk, we talked a lot about working together, and I couldn't agree more. Working together, partnerships, incredibly important. But I also want to talk about when we work against ourselves. British Columbia is unbelievably blessed with our natural resources. There, other places in the world would kill to have the opportunities that we have that have been bestowed upon this province, and the opportunity that we have to harness that and to ensure broad-based prosperity in British Columbia is unparalleled to probably just about anywhere else. And yet, too often, we're working against ourselves and our own prosperity. And I can't for the life of me figure out why. Here's an example. Why? I agree. You got to try and get consensus, okay? But sometimes you can't, and you have to move on. You have to move on, and you have to get things done. In the municipal world, when we get a rezoning application, people have an opportunity to come out, and they get to say their piece. And then we make a decision. We don't go back to the people who are naysayers about just, almost anything and say, well, here's a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth kick at the can to try and slow down or actually stop a project. So in my view, we have got to start thinking about how we get our projects done in a process that allows people to have their say, makes an honest attempt to find consensus and partnerships. But at the end of the day, we got to get things done. And we can't allow some folks who, let's be really clear, you'll never convince. They don't want to be convinced. It's not about I don't have enough information or I don't have the facts or the data. No, there are some folks who are a do-nothing sort of mentality. And we can't allow them to be driving the decision-making in British Columbia when it comes to natural resources.
Thank you so much. I want to ask one last question before I go to the questions on the screen. So you still have time to vote for the questions that have been posed in the WOVA app. But I'd be remiss if I did not mention a study that iTOTEM Analytics did for the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, which looked at procurement between 2018 and 2021. And painted a similar picture. So if you looked at the top 4 municipalities listed, they were Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, Pouce-Coupe, and Vancouver. So I wanted to ask Mayor Hansen, we know the natural resource or the natural gas and oil supply chain is important to you. We see that there are $2.5 billion in expenditures and 870 suppliers in your community. How does your community view the natural resource sector?
We are definitely truly blessed, and I have to tell you, when I think of our natural resource sector, I think of them with fondness. It is definitely a key driver in our area for our economic sector, for jobs, for businesses. They make our quality of life possible. And it's also the partnerships and how they assist our community. And it's much like many others. It's, you know, they're there at community events. They're there for sponsorships. They're there for good and bad times when they can. We've unfortunately have had multiple fires in our area over the last couple of summers, and industry partners have stepped up. They have not waited for me to put out an SOS ask. They've picked up the phone or they've been texting and emailing, and they're like, how can we help? These are people that work for us. These are their families. We are in your region and we're invested. And I think that's something that I can't describe it more than just saying it's a blessing to work with people, much like that I have here. I've got my council here that's supportive. I see some of my past chamber family as well. I think working collectively is something that sees our province and our country move farther ahead than what we're seeing globally.
Great. And so I hear that you're working hand in hand with the industry and that there's a really a sense of a shared future, shared goals.
What I appreciate is industry, they're very communicative. I think it's something that other organizations could also learn from. You know, whether it's good or bad news, they will let me know in advance. And I think that they want to know what the rules to the game are. And at the same time, I do see them learning from past projects, whether there's been mistakes, and they want to do a better job. And I think when it comes to innovation, industry is ahead of the game. And often I'm saying, you need to shout out more all the great things you do. Let's let the country know. And it's awful when they don't do it because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. But that's something that we, as elected officials, we can do on their behalf.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to the audience question because it actually addresses one of the topics on our list quite nicely. So the top question is, what's the top policy change the BC government could make to help municipal governments attract investment and grow their local economies? So maybe I'll just go to Mayor Pond next to answer that question. Unless you want to think about it more.
Can I have a spot?
Yeah, that's great.
As we mentioned before, we need to streamline regulatory processes. Businesses need certainty. How do you prepare a budget? How do you plan ahead for projects? So that would be one of my primary asks.
Yeah, the regulatory piece, it's a little bit less about the municipality than it is about the industry, but I think the average British Columbian would be shocked to see how much paper is generated to do a pipeline project from Fort St. John out to the coast. They'd be stunned. It would fill this stage, it'd be many feet high, and it would go into every single stream crossing, uniquely analyzing it. If you were to build a house that way, it would take you 30 years to build a house. You know, somebody's done the work to understand that every stud that goes into a house needs 3 nails. 2 from one direction, 1 from the other, and that will work. And so the carpenters go in and they go bam, 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 down there, and eventually an inspector comes to make sure there's actually 3 nails. Done, 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 done. But we could do that with stream crossings. We could say, this is this kind of stream crossing. We're going to have 750 of them along the route, and this is how we're going to do each and every one of them. There's 5 of them that are a category 6 or whatever it is, and they're going to need a little bit more attention. That could be done tomorrow. It is staggering to see the level of specificity. And I'm all for protecting streams. Like, this is not about, geez, we need to do sloppy work. We need to understand that the people that go do this work are good at what they do. And they're trained in what they do. And they should be inspected to make sure that they actually do what they say they're going to do. But we have to get far, we just have to get far beyond. It goes to what Mayor West talked about. These processes are set up by people who don't want projects to proceed. And we have bent to them.
I think there are people in this room who I've met some of them. They're listening. So I think that's really important in terms of understanding your frustrations, hearing what you have to say, and back to what Mayor Yu was saying. Now we need action. We need to take that information and think about, well, how do we put that into place? So I'm hearing from you. We need more balance. We need to understand what the goal is, and how do we get there a little more quickly while honoring the purpose of some of these regulations that are in place. Mayor West, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, the change I would make is that the province not allow local government to exceed the province's regulatory regime in areas where the local government has no business being involved. So, for instance, City of Vancouver should not be allowed to ban natural gas.
Amen.
The province... The provincial government has already set a very ambitious agenda for British Columbia with respect to climate goals. Municipalities don't need to get into a competition with each other to see who can exceed that. Most of it is completely detached from reality to begin with, and yet they're in this competition where, I mean, really, what is it? It's greenwashing. It's, look at me, I'm doing something that is untethered from reality, but I get to say I did something. Yeah. And I don't think the province should allow local governments that don't have business being involved in that to do so. British Columbia is one of the most highly regulated places on planet Earth. We have the highest environmental standards, labor standards, human rights. There are places around this world where they don't even give a second or a third thought to that. And I think we need to hold our head a lot higher and acknowledge that we are already doing very well. We're already doing very well. And in this overkill, we need to put a stop to the overkill on the regulatory side.
Policy need to be vetted by the industry, by the First Nation, and by people actually know what they're doing before it become a policy. Some of the provincial, right now we talk about green energy, blue energy. We have to be practical. There's going to be a transition period. We cannot just develop a policy either in the Ivory Towers or in the Victoria that they cannot foresee the future consequences 10 years down the road. Some of the policies just not working. It can't work because there's a reality out here. They need to visit a smaller town, visit every part of the province, talk to the industry, talk to the First Nation, talk to the mayors, because we got a lot of information, and before this policy become a policy. So this is how I see it. Industry need to get involved more actively when these policies being developed. And the schedule has to be put in for the EA process. It can't just keep going on and on and on. 2 years, get it done. If you cannot get it done, you are fired, right?
So I'm hearing both of you saying that we need a holistic approach to things. We can't work in isolation and definitely not in in conflict with each other. We need to keep our eye on the prize and hold people to commitments around, be it timeframes or around the process, to make sure that this isn't about the process, but about the end objective of getting projects done. We actually are at near the end of our time, so I'm going to ask you for some closing remarks, and I want to again, knowing that we've got this great collection of people in the room, regulators, people from government, industry, suppliers, people from your own organizations or the broader public sector, if you could have a request or send one message to any group, maybe as a collective or individually, what would that message be? Mayor, you.
Well, first of all, I cannot boost Brad's tax rate, but in the same time, perhaps you should understand, Prince George, the size of Prince George, it consists of, we can put a Victoria, Saanich, Nanaimo, all within my city boundary, and we got room to spare. So obviously, that shows we have not getting our fair share of growth. A lot of time, people ask me, Mayor, as a center of, it's not coincident based on the statistic why this Natural Resources Forum happens here in Prince George. We're always ranked the second as a service center. So a lot of time people ask me, what exactly the size of area you service center around Prince George? I usually tell them it's the size of France. Size of France. This is the area we're talking about. The opportunity here is immense. Come back here often. Understand the region. Have your children move up here. We got room. This is a better place than Coquitlam, by the way. And this is my final thought. I just say, 22nd year, I'm so looking forward to April, the Coffee Convention here, as well as see you guys all back here next year. And by then, hopefully with my council colleagues, we can tell people, yes, we are going to expand the convention center here for you guys. Thank you.
Mayor West, despite the fact that Mayor Yu's trying to steal your residence, do you have any other messages that you want to
There's probably one or two of them that I'd be happy to send your way. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we should move the provincial capital to Prince George. How's that? That may get government...
Fort St. James was the provincial capital. So you guys know, Fort St. James was the provincial capital many years ago.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm giving you the softballs. I just want to, well, first, thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed being here. I want to touch a little bit on one of the questions that got asked there about the examples of collaboration between natural resource industry and local government. I'm exceptionally proud that Port Coquitlam has been a leader in preserving our industrial land. There has been a huge amount of conversion of industrial land in the Lower Mainland to housing. And you cannot have a complete community if you don't have anywhere for business to occur, for people to go to work. And as much as some folks would like it, you can't build an economy on whale watching, at least not alone. You have to have places and spaces and land where people can set up manufacturing, where they can set up very significant industrial operations. And we've really done a good job in our city of preserving our industrial land, and we're benefiting as a result. Saputo just built a massive processing plant in Port Coquitlam. More than 300 people go there and earn a good union wage that they can support a family on. We need more of those. We need to have dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of those happening in every corner of British Columbia. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity when we do work together, when we're very clear-eyed about what our goals are, and we're unapologetic. And that is the one thing I want to leave you with. We need to be unapologetic about what it is that you folks do and what it means to this province and its people, because it means a hell of a lot, and we can't be embarrassed or shy or apologetic about it. I think we need to be proud, and we need to find ways to make more of it happen. And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
So I don't know whose idea it was to get Mayor West here, but we need to get more of him. He started by saying, and this is something I've said for a long time, and so it just resonated with, there is only one British Columbia. What we do out here matters throughout the province, and what happens in the Lower Mainland matters to us. There's not a single visitor that comes through up into our part of the world that hasn't come through the Lower Mainland, landed there, or experienced that. When we need critical care for health care for our children, BC Children's Hospital is BC's Children's Hospital. And we all go down there and we use it, and my kids have benefited from that. And we need to celebrate that. I remember being involved, poking my nose into the Canada Line debate when it was being floated as an idea, and being told by Lower Mainland mayors, get your nose out of that, that's not your business. And I said, we're going to use the Canada Line more than you use the Canada Line. We come down from our communities. We get onto that Canada Line. It matters to us. How the Lower Mainland grows matters to us. And what we do up here should matter down there. And so, Mayor West, you're not done. We're going to form an alliance together, and we are going to educate the Lower Mainland on how important natural resources are.
That's amazing. Mayor Hansen?
So I believe the question is, if we had one thing to say to higher levels of government, what would it be? I want to get back to work. That's what I would like to say to them. As mayor, I represent council, and I speak for council, I speak for the municipality, but I speak for my residents, and I speak from the heart. As many of you know, the City of Fort St. John, Canfor, closed December 20th. The last board went through the mill December 19th at 11:15 a.m. I have here, this is a representation. Canfor had offered to send me with their 10-foot length of board, the last board that went through, and it has the signatures of approximately 221 of the employees that signed the board. So this board here has photos on it of those signatures. And sorry, yeah, it was 11:15 p.m. that it went through. They don't want to be forgotten. They have faces, families, and what they've asked me to say, I sit on a community transition table with Canfor, with organizations for employment, and also representation from the province. And it's important that as elected officials we realize there's often unintended consequences to our decisions that are made with the best intentions. But as elected officials, it's important that we realize that there are unintended consequences, and that is what these families are asking that I bring forward. So thank you so much, but I want to say a big thank you to everybody who are the voices for industry, for their families, for their communities. And I think it's important that we continue to help explain to those that maybe don't make the connections, why is it that it benefits the whole province, and that we can cross the finish line together and to be stronger. So thank you to all, and it's been an honor to be on this panel.
Thank you so much. It's such a perfect way to end this panel, to highlight the fact that we may be talking about revenues or tax revenues, but at the end of the day, this is really a discussion about people and community. So thank you so much for a lively discussion.
I think Kim deserves a really solid round of applause. Just imagine having to deal with 4 mayors. Thank goodness Mayor West was able to come up and join us, bring a little levity, having known Mayor Yu and Mayor Lillian and, well, her pond. And anyway, thank you, Brad, for coming up. And Kim, another round. And it's my pleasure now to call on Randy Reichert, Skeena Gold and Silver, who is the president and CEO, to give thanks to Kim and this great panel. Randy?
Great. Thank you. Wonderful to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Randy Reichert, President and CEO of Skeena Gold and Silver. On behalf of Skeena, I'd like to thank all of the mayors on this panel, along with Kim Logan for moderating. Local leadership is essential to the resource industry, and the role of local government is more important than ever to the essential work we are doing to build a stronger BC resource economy. As a BC company, Skeena is proud to be building a Built in BC project focused on the many issues discussed on the panel today. We are committed to collaborating with the local communities around our Eskay Creek project to build economic prosperity, create positive jobs, and make BC stronger. We're also proud of the commitment to engagement and collaboration with our local Indigenous communities, including the Tahltan Nation, through the first Section 7 agreement signed in BC. This agreement demonstrates our commitment to innovation and to sustainably develop resource projects. Thank you once again to the panelists, moderator, and the organizers of BCNRF. Skeena is proud to be a part of this fantastic event. Thank you.